Honeyshuckleex.
I am Sackbot Barbecue.
And I'm Giggleklutz. And today, we're going to talk about achievements. You feel successful?
I will when we're done. You know, that's kind of how achievements work. Once you do the thing, you kind of feel accomplished.
Maybe.
Yeah, it depends.
It does depend.
And that's part of what we're here to talk about, I think. Maybe we should just look at the achievement list. But there's a pretty good chance that you're a gamer watching this and you've gotten an achievement before. But in case you haven't, when you do something in a game, a little thing will pop up telling you did that thing.
And well, check an item off a list.
Yeah, and these are generally considered, goals to be completed to fully complete the game by a lot of people, but a majority of achievements are optional.
Most noteworthy achievements are things you don't actually have to do.
That's kind of the point of why we wanted to have the conversation, or we decided to structure the conversation around, is how achievements fit into the relationship between the developer and the player. Why do they put the achievements there? What do the achievements actually do? How do they relate to how you feel about the game? Or, the game experience. So, talking about it, we came up with 4 different ways that achievements interact with the player and the experience. And the first one is a tutorial.
Yeah, so there are a lot of games out there who have an achievement system that kind of takes the place of a tutorial or supplements it and kind of gives you small goals to point you in directions and progressions. I think, honestly, one of the most infamous of these could be, like, Minecraft. It's like, oh, wow, look at that, you've gotten one piece of tree, congratulations, you did it. If you can't tell, I am not the biggest fan of this approach.
Yeah, and there's something to be said, and this will probably come up a few times while we're conversing today, that it's hard to tell whether something should have been just a quest log within the game versus an achievement, and you can speculate all you want as to the reasons why somebody might do that, but there's something a little bit more detached from the immersion of a game to be at the achievement level versus a quest log. And I think that what I'm discovering for myself as I think about it and I'm trying to talk about it is the difference seems to be that achievements can be accessed without opening the game and quest logs can't.
Yeah, achievements can often be like something that is just universal to your copy of the game rather than a specific, file or playthrough.
That too, yeah.
Those are good points.
Because, if you're only going to be able to complete a quest in, a game only once, that's typically going to be seen as a downside. It's like if it's still completed even if you restart the game.
Yeah, because with quests, usually there's a piece of loot behind it or something, some kind of reward.
Or just seeing, a small bit of dialogue that changes depending on how you finish the quest.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be anything big.
But achievements don't intrinsically have a reward in a game.
In fact, it's kind of weird if the achievement exists outside of quests, because often they can be synonymous. Like, a lot of quests in games can also be achievements, but it doesn't mean that they have to be. There are a lot of games that don't have quest logs or quests or quest markers or quest rewards that have achievements, and almost all of them with quest logs will have achievements, but it doesn't mean that those same quests are achievements, so.
Yeah, I think that kind of brings me nicely to the counterpoint that I wanted to talk about with where I think achievements do bad on tutorials, and instead show an example that I've really enjoyed, which is in The Void Rains Upon Her Heart. I know I've talked to death about this game on multiple occasions, on and off the podcast, but I love this game, and here's one of the reasons why. So this game is a shoot-'em-up bullet hell boss rush game. So there's 99 bosses currently in the game as of recording this. There will be more. And each boss has these 2 achievements tied to it for defeating them or engaging with the boss in different ways. And early on in the game, if you do these, you unlock new things that can make you stronger. And what these achievements are doing is there's already a tutorial in the game. They explain to you how the game works and what you need to do to succeed, but the achievements give you a way to practice more specific techniques and also reward you for doing so. It is giving you a guiding path to mastery or just progression in general, and I love that. I think that this is an underexplored method of achievements. Like, rather than being instructions, it's more of a guiding force.
You want to talk a little bit about what other thing is kind of unique about Void Rains Upon Our Heart achievements?
There's 637 of them.
Yeah.
I have...
You want to say that number again?
I have 617 of them. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get the last couple, but it feels kind of like a sunk cost at this point. I have 150 hours in this game. Why stop now?
Sunk cost fallacy is one of the dangers of achievements.
Right.
I don't know if we need to get into that right now, but that's an important thing to note.
Right. Yeah.
I'm feeling it hard. I love this game.
Let's see, that's the thing. And we'll probably touch on this several times in the episode, is that you love the game. When it becomes problematic is when you don't love the game anymore. When achievement hunting is ruining your experience. Because that is absolutely a thing that can happen. But rather than... Are you done talking about
I think
tutorial?
I think I've touched on my big points there.
Okay, and I really didn't have any good examples of that particular point. Sackbot?
And not really anything that's, too much about teaching you about the game so much.
And along these lines also, I don't know if I put it in tutorial, but they can also be progression markers to show kind of how far you've gotten in the game. And when you look at global achievements, at least on Steam, you can see how many other players at least made it as far as you did in the game. Because it can be a really good indicator as to whether or not it's worth it to put, if you're not having a very good time looking at the achievements, and if you can see that the majority of players, let's say 30% of players, only 30% of people who bought this game made it as far as you did, that can be a pretty good indicator that your experience is not unique if you're not enjoying yourself. That you can say it's not a personal failing that you're not making better progress, or that maybe you're not enjoying yourself. Other people probably would agree if there's only if you're halfway through the game, you think, and only 30% of players have made it as far as you have, then either you have unique tastes, or...
It can also just be, reassurance that, yeah, this game is not easy. You're not necessarily missing something.
Right.
That is an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, it's with how it usually goes with statistics like that. It doesn't necessarily mean one specific thing, but you can tell a lot about, how people approach the game you've been playing if, based on how many of those largely just progression-based achievements, people typically get.
Yep. Okay. Second thing that I think that is a big point as to what developers use achievements to do are, I subtitled it Easter eggs. But I mean, encouraging play within the game itself to either explore in ways that are not necessarily explicitly stated in the game itself, or outside of the normal theme of the game, or whatever. We've each tried to come up with some examples of this. Achievements that add whimsy, encourage you to seek whimsy, that kind of thing.
And exploratory achievements, right?
Yeah.
These often, can fall into, a hidden category if you're, going off of, Steam achievements. Not because they're, spoilery, but because imagine how cool it is to find this thing out yourself.
True. So, for myself, and looking through just Steam, I don't play that many games off of Steam these days, except for, Nintendo, but then they don't really have achievements, aside from, Questlog kind of things.
Yeah, there are some games on the Switch that have put in their own achievement systems.
So, on my list of, Easter eggy kinds of whimsical things. And I'm using this broadly, this category. The first one I want to talk about is in Tiny Room Stories Town Mystery. Hear me? Did you hear me say that? I got it. It rolled off my tongue. I got it. Oh my god. And on that note, just to let you guys know, they finally did update when they're releasing the new game. 3rd quarter next year.
Wow, that's a ways away.
I know, sad face. I'm really looking forward to Rift Escape, so I've been looking forward to it since we played originally January last year. So, it's a long wait. Hopefully it'll be worth it. But in the meantime, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. We had so much fun playing that puzzle game. So, yeah, anyway. That's a total side note. Looking forward to Rift Escape someday. I know none of them will ever hear this podcast, but still, we enjoyed your game. We're looking forward to your next one. So, go, go, go. Sis Boomba. Anyway, one of the things they did as an achievement that I thought was really great was when you go ahead and get so excited about what you're doing, at one point it's possible to forget to take the crystals that you need for the next part out of the trunk of your car. Because at the end of one chapter, you put them in your trunk of your car, and then when you get to your destination, you actually have to go to the back of your car and take them out. So you take them inside this place where you need to put them in places. Don't worry about it. That's kind of spoilery. But if you forget, it gives you an achievement. I forget what it's called. But it's just like, haha, you forgot the crystals in the car. But then this game is your friend. It sends you right back to the car. You get them. And then it puts you right back in where you were. It doesn't make you walk all the way out and come all the way back in. It just makes fun of you for forgetting them in a car. And I thought that's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
It makes it a very human thing. It's just like, you're so excited to get to where you're going, you forgot.
And another thing that silly game does that plays into how just achievements is in another chapter of that game. Sometimes you just do things in hopes that eventually they're going to solve puzzles. Well, it lets you do the laundry and do the dishes, and then it gives you an achievement of Cinderella. And it turns out that there's no other purpose to doing those chores in this house other than getting that achievement. And it's something that you very easily could have done just in the process of interacting with everything in that environment. And it's like, haha, we tricked you into doing the chores, little Cinderella. And it's like, it's a testament to the whimsy of that game, because that game really, as much as it's kind of, very logical in how the puzzles are formed and how the world works, and its realistic style of logic and just presentation and art style and all of that, not hyper realistic but like logically sound. The car doors open and the pipes work and all that kind of stuff, the toilets flush, that kind of shit. But this just like, ha ha ha, we got you to do the dishes.
Yeah, it's like, that was definitely a game that, took itself seriously, but not in an unfun fashion even.
Right. Oh yeah, they had fun making that game, you can tell for sure. It's a love project. You can feel the love in a good game, and that game definitely contains dev love. And those two achievements are kind of a testament to that. It's like things that you might experience playing this game, and we're going to give you achievements for it to just, here's a gold star, ting! You did a very human thing of forgetting something in your car, and you also did a very human thing of picking up after people. What a good little worker bee you are. And then let's see, my next example is in a short hike. There's an achievement for putting out the campfires where it never would have occurred to me to use. You get water buckets for watering little saplings that turn into these flowers that end up being springs that'll shoot you up in the air. And it's like, okay, that's enough of a mechanic right there. I can't imagine, it's a pretty simple game. Why else would you need a water bucket? It turns out that, well, they thought that too, and they're like, hey, this is something else you could do with it. And in the spirit of that particular game, where it is non-confrontational the whole time, even if everyone is a little bit of an imp and kind of snarky in there, you go through and you get an achievement for putting out the campfires, and two of them you do when people are actually sitting at them at the time, and one of them comments like, oh, fire safety is really important, but I think I got this, thanks. And they light the fire again right away. And So, it's one of the things they can do with achievements is encourage you to be silly in their environment, to encourage you to try more things. And I guess, who has another story of whimsy brought on by achievements or enhanced by achievements?
Well, I guess, I can bring up Pizza Tower in the middle of an episode in this one.
Whoop, whoop.
So, one of the things you can do, one of your basic moves you can use is there's a taunt button. And it's like, you use it for parrying attacks, but how it visually appears is like, if you're just using the taunt button, you're just, the main character is just striking a pose, a little sound effect and everything. And it's like, in one of the later game levels, it's a city-themed level with, populated by some, pig folk. And it's like, if you taunt near them, they will take a picture of you. So there's an achievement for just going around and posing for all of them.
It's hardly taunting, but okay.
That's certainly something.
It's just this neat little thing where these, background characters will actually interact with you in this fun way, and you just get an achievement for just leading into it.
Do any of the other background characters interact with you at all in this game?
No. Nothing's immediately coming to mind.
Okay,
but...
yeah, I'm just wondering how out of character it is for the rest of the game, which would absolutely fit the theme of the point we're trying to make at this, this juncture. So I was wondering how much it really emphasizes that is one of the interesting things that developers use achievements to do. So, cool. Anything else?
That's the example that I thought of.
Awesome.
And I have one for the game Double Cross, which, if you know me, I have this series on my YouTube channel. I just finished it.
You can watch the whole thing now.
Yeah, you can watch the whole thing. Notably, this is not an achievement that I got in my playthrough, but I know exists. In this game, you are kind of a police officer, an interdimensional police officer, kind of, and you're trying to gather evidence to convict criminal suspect X. And as you compile this evidence, you can show it to people around the station. And notably, there's one character who you never have to present evidence to, and that's the director. So there's an achievement called, Stop Bothering Me, where you can show her literally every piece of evidence you've gathered throughout the entire course of the game. And I'm just like, that... it's very in character for her to not want you to do that, but... theoretically you might need her help for some stuff, and I just think that's a very silly thing to need to do, and I appreciate that level of detail.
Makes sense. Anything else?
Well, similarly, there are 2 other achievements in the game that follow this sort of same thing, where you can show everybody a love letter that's not meant for them.
Is it going to imply that it's from you to them when you do that?
For one character, yes.
Okay, I was just wondering how far does the whimsy go?
And he's just like, oh, really for me? He's like, oh, wait, no, this isn't from you, and it's for someone else. Oh.
But that is on point for that game. So, by the way, if that kind of storytelling appeals to you, you might actually want to watch your Double Cross series, and we'll put a link to that in the blog.
The final achievement like this is, you can find this goo just kind of laying around. Apparently somebody will lick it if you show it to them. I don't know who, but someone will lick it.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Apparently they work in a police station and not a science lab, because scientists know better than to lick the goo.
But the rocks are fine.
Rocks are one thing. Goo is something else. Okay. So any non-double cross related ones, or?
That's what coming to mind right now.
Okay, you want to talk about the Stanley Parable?
Oh God.
Because those were the examples you gave me earlier.
Yeah, true.
And of course it's the Stanley Parable. They're gonna take all those kinds of things to the nth degree, and
I don't know which is more infamous, the one that makes you not play for a decade or 7 years depending on the version, or the unachievable achievement. I don't know.
Which became achievable. That's the thing.
Yeah, it became achievable. It was so infamous they made it achievable.
So, for context, because that was a total bit of nonsense if you don't know much about the Stanley Parable, but when the Stanley Parable was released in 2013.
Yeah.
And then a couple years ago, they basically re-released the game kind of with inbuilt DLC called the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. And in the original version, there's an achievement called the Unachievable Achievement, which you just can't get. It's just there. You can't get it. Anyone who does have it hacked it to get it. And so many people were ticked about that when they made the Stanley Parable, they had a machine
Ultra
in
Deluxe. The Ultra...
Yeah, Ultra Deluxe. So sorry. When they made the new one, Ultra Deluxe, they made a machine that helps you get that unachievable achievement. And the whole purpose of this whole room and that machine is to give you that achievement that you couldn't get before.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, a funny thing about, like, the unachievable one from the original version, well, original being relatively speaking, it's not the achievement that has been, completed the least. It's like more people have hacked to get that achievement than have gotten one that you actually can get.
Which is the don't play the Stanley Parable for 7 years.
Yeah, it's probably pretty easy to forget to get that one in the middle. Seeing as it takes 7 years.
Right, but there's also one for clicking on a specific door a certain number of times.
Which is misleading. It's actually a little more than that.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, okay, so...
They lie to you.
Yes, the narrator goes, they'll just hand out an achievement for anything these days. Why don't you click on that door 30 times? Wait, no, now go click on the photocopier twice.
Right, it sends you on a scavenger hunt. Clicking after that.
Gets in this whole, continuous bit of trying to up the ante to really make this achievement worth something. And you can see the narrator really getting into this.
Yeah, and then you finally click on the door 5 times.
Which is absolutely leaning into whimsy, which is a beautiful thing that they can do with achievements.
And, this is one of those ones where you're only gonna get this if you read the achievements.
You're not gonna click on a door more than once, really.
Normally, no.
Because it's you're gonna check it to see if it opens, and if it doesn't open. Well, click on it again.
Right. Mm-hmm. But it's the Stanley Parable, so...
It's made for you to do meta-level stuff like that. It's the Stanley fucking Parable. That's what it is about.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a whole list of those in the Stanley Parable that fall into... In fact, I would think that, honestly, most of the achievements in the Stanley Parable fall in kind of the Easter egg, adding to the whimsy, leaning into the weirdness of the experience.
I am remembering an achievement that I haven't thought... from a game I haven't thought about in a long time.
Ears perked?
Yeah, there's this old puzzle game... Well, not old puzzle game, implies much older than it is, but, from a good ways back called Gunpoint.
This doesn't sound like a puzzle game, but I'm gonna trust you.
There can be action things in it, and it can get tense. There is guns to be had. As the name implies, but basically one of the things you can do is, you're kind of stealth happening, and you can tackle guards and punch them to knock them out, but what if you just keep punching them? It's the game will get increasingly annoyed with you and eventually just give you an achievement out of spite to get you to stop.
Oh my god!
I'm making a face. You can't see me, but I'm making a face. It just sounds horrible.
Is this whimsy? I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, I mean, there's a certain sense of whimsy to dark humor. It's, dark whimsy. I mean, it's a joke.
Right, oh yeah.
It's whimsical in that sense.
Right, I mean, and there's a place in video gaming, I mean, come on, for ultra-violent, bad taste humor. I mean, there's a place. It's just because it's not our cup of tea, necessarily, doesn't mean there's not a place for it.
There's only really ever going to be a space in video games for, just continuously punching somebody in the face when you really should just cut it out. And have that be even, is any part of that's not morbid?
I'm glad you think so. It makes me feel better about my job as a parent, rather than, I'm glad I'm not raising ultra-violent beings, since I share a roof with you, not being afraid for my well-being, it's just a perk, I guess. I don't know. So, does that wrap up Easter eggs for now?
I think so.
Okay. So the next thing of the 4 points that we were thinking for things that developers do with achievements is add to the replayability. And I want to talk about that as a little bit different than Easter eggs that encourage you to go back and try things, as either exposing layers of the game that you might not have known were possible, or showing you where the collectibles are, the kinds of things that can be collectible. Like today, I was noticing, I don't know how I didn't notice this before, but if you go back to I Am Dead, there's a whole layer of achievements that I had no idea was there, and in each level, there's a collectible object that you can get, like the shoes in the lighthouse, but in town it's the cats, it's the birds in the sculpture garden.
Oh god, that's so many birds. No, why?
Well,
that's like 50 birds!
I'm just saying it's there, and there's an achievement for finding all the in each level. So there's butterflies in the museum, apparently.
Oh my god.
So anyway, having things like that adds to replayability and encourages you to spend more time interacting with the game. So I was looking back at like Stardew Valley, where it's like, look at all the things that you can collect in there, or you can do in there, and these kind of achievements are the ones that try and lay out the breadth and depth of everything in the game and reward people for exploring it to the nth degree. Some games thrive on that, and some games don't even bother. Sackbot, you look like you got...
Okay, so, there was this, fan-enhanced version of, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles that added achievements.
Oh, no.
And one of them that was really particularly interesting is, one of them is an achievement for getting your score high enough. Points is not the thing you think of when you think about, like, Sonic the Hedgehog or being extra good at Sonic the Hedgehog. You think about going fast, but there's a bunch of, like, interesting quirks that relate to the point system that just aren't emphasized by the game by default at all.
And so they added achievements to do that.
It's like they added an achievement for getting it super high. It's like, yeah, you can actually think about that and how to maximize it.
That's fascinating to me, because as you bring it up, I'm realizing now that between the arcade era and the modern era of gaming, when's the last time you thought about a point system that wasn't in an arcade-style game? I mean, really. It's like, last one I remember playing that I paid any attention to, like, points was, well, Castle Full of Cats, but before that, what, Rock Band?
This is not a great question to ask me, because guess what game has a point system in it?
I'm gonna say the one with over 600 achievements that's hijacked you for over 120 hours or something?
Yeah, that one. That one has
with
a point system.
Long title?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's got points, and the better you do, the more points you get.
Okay. No, I'm just saying it's a gaming concept that's fallen way out of favor. It doesn't show up that much anymore, but there is arcade elements to that game, so it's not out of the question.
I mean, I don't think Shoot 'em Up is inherently an arcade-style game. This is a roguelike. That's a bit different from arcade.
And I'm gonna glaze my eyes over, because you know how I feel about the genre titles. So.
The essence of shooters that became what bullet hells are today was very much an arcade thing.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, it's, to me, any...
Space Invaders.
Yeah. Well,
Galaga.
That's the one I was thinking of. But yeah, it's like all of those things have deep roots in arcade and early console gaming. So to me, that just absolutely makes sense when you think about it. But you can absolutely disagree with me. Anything else as far as replayability? I'm trying to think.
Well,
it's like, oh gosh, I've got a couple examples for that.
I have one though. So like, I'm a big fan of Clay and like the developers, and Don't Starve. But I'm also a really big fan of Oxygen Not Included. And as a base building survival game, there are some rather interesting achievements where you build your colony up in specific ways. And while it is possible to get all achievements on one colony, it is very, very difficult, because there's some that kind of don't go well with each other. Like, there's one for only using sustainable power sources to generate a specific amount of power, which is an absolutely ridiculous amount. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. And then there's ones where, like, eat this much meat before day 100, and you need to, like, have so many duplicants in your base in order to eat that much meat. So you have to expand rapidly and have critters farmed and be eating them in this ridiculous time frame. So typically you need to dedicate bases specifically to getting these achievements, and as such, replayability, trying again and again.
Yep. Yeah, and the ones I had for that were Manifold Garden, because with the achievements of Manifold Garden, you discover what all of the places that were there that you didn't use were for, because everything in that game is for something. Like, oh, there's a gate that you have to open from the other side, but I have no idea where that is. You might never find it if you don't go through the whole process of going through the game for the very specific "the game is not enough" achievement, where yeah, where they basically made a second game inside the first one that you might never have guessed was there, aside from the fact that there are all these doors that you can't open. But man, oh man, yeah, and that one is something else. I've never finished it. I'm probably never going to, but I have watched it be done and did about 2/3 of it myself. And then I'm just like, at some point I was just like, okay, there's too much backtracking and keeping track of things in multiple layers that I just don't think my brain's gonna handle. So I've watched somebody do it and not done it myself.
It's like, the base, main obvious campaign through the game is like, it can really push your brain to a lot of its limits.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then it decided to do it even more.
Yeah, when not just thinking about gravity and orienting yourself in space, but linear pathway through time and keeping track of multiple objects and locations when you're dealing with all of that.
How do people even figure this out?
I don't know. They're different people than me. That's for sure.
And I don't even mean, like, solving it. Sometimes it's even just creating it. How do you do this?
I don't know if I can free reign to pull myself out of the space and not have to have a first-person perspective for it, where I could see the whole thing at once. It would be pretty easy to go, I'm going to take a piece from here and I'm going to put it in that room. And then it's possible to get from here to there.
I think part of the point of Manifold Garden is that you kind of can't see all of it at once.
I know, but you were wondering how they created it. And I'm like, who created it is they give themselves a godlike perspective on the entire thing, which you actually technically can have, because every level, color world that you finish, a model of it becomes available to you that's there all the time. So you can see the whole thing at once, but you can't look at any part of it that you want to. You can't zoom in on it and think about the pathway through the entire thing so you could map out a route or something. But I'm sure the developer could.
You typically can't make a game from a first-person perspective, even if that's what the gameplay is. It's like you can't develop the game like that.
If you could, that would be really interesting.
It's a game about developing a game.
That sounds like it would be kind of like Unfinished Swan, in a way.
Maybe to you.
Honeyshuckle's picking on me because I cannot play Unfinished Swan. My brain, my eyes, I don't know, the connection between my eyes and my brain, I had to close my eyes even to say this, cannot handle the visuals of that game where you just have the premise is you basically are given an almost white palette that is a three-dimensional world, but you have to hit it with paint before you can reveal what's there. And until it's revealed, my brain just cannot handle the white being layers in itself.
Yeah, it's like there's a 3D space there, but everything in it is the exact same shade of white. So you have to add more detail and contrast to it.
Funnily enough, that's only the first level. The rest of the game operates very differently, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just... It's the opening part of the game, and it's like it's most visually striking because of just how much it isn't until you influence it.
I don't even remember what achievements this game has.
Oh, I don't either.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. Okay, so there's one achievement that I tried to get in Unfinished Swan that I completely forgot about until right now, where you have to beat that entire first chapter, the whole one where you're supposed to hit stuff to see where you are. You have to do it using maximum 3 orbs.
You only get to fire 3 paintballs.
Yes, and then you have to navigate the entire thing, basically blind.
So yeah, in a game where perception is not reality.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. I think the farthest I made it is, like, to the pond, and then I couldn't, like, jump across the stones because I can't see them. I can't see them. How am I supposed to get across this pond?
I don't know. This kind of reminds me of something else that I can't talk about because of spoilers.
Well, why don't we go ahead and touch on the final topic instead?
I actually have one more. Playability. It almost fits in the previous category as well as this one, but it's hard to talk about whimsy with this game because, well, there is an element of whimsy. I'm talking about happy game.
Oh, boy.
But I actually like happy game, and I should write probably an essay because it's not episode necessarily worthy about this game. But it's a creepy horror, I guess, but I'm gonna say it's horror whimsy because I can handle it. The only kind of horror I really can seem to handle is cartoony horror where it's not first person. It has to be third person, I'm moving a character I can fully see. And not like second person where I'm floating behind them. I don't have any identity with the character I'm moving. It's definitely a player character that I'm influencing what happens to them, and they are definitely not me. I'm thinking like Frambeau fits in that category, and where it's like, no, I'm not Frambeau, but I'm invested in Frambeau's journey, right? This happy game fits in that category too, where you're a little kid who is wandering through these literal nightmares. They're asleep and they're going through these nightmare scenarios, and to get out of them, the kid has to do horrible things. Just horrible things. But the achievements actually encourage you to not just do them like once, but it's like, how many times can you do this thing? If you do it a lot, you'll get a different response.
Okay, and then you had just the visceral reaction earlier to punching somebody who is already on the ground, and now you're bringing up your own one. Am I the odd one out here?
I don't know. It sounds like punching a cop actually feels like you're watching someone, I don't know, a melty monster in a nightmare. Having to cut them a smile is a little bit different than punching someone who appears to be equal to you.
And I mean, I don't know how the achievements are framed specifically, but the way you presented them just now seems like it's something they want you to do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And this one was very much like, I'll give you an achievement even though this is not worthy of such a thing.
I'll give you an achievement to stop.
It's like, okay, here's your reward. Cut it the fuck out.
Right, yeah, and this one's, like, encouraging you to, like, I don't remember the details right off the top of my head anymore, but, because I did get some of the achievements for, like, how many times can I go back and open this door or whatever? It's like, oh, a lot. And I'm like, hey, there's an achievement for that. So I noticed while I was playing that it was going to encourage me to do that, which actually made me sit in each level and try things over and over and over again until they started repeating. Because it was the achievements themselves that exposed me to that mechanic within the game, that if you stay where you're at in the puzzle and if you know what the solution is but you don't go to it yet until you've checked out anything that has a variable, you check all of the variables, you'll get to see stuff that they put in the game that you wouldn't have seen if you didn't sit and methodically go through each piece. And it's the kind of the achievements that reinforce that. So that's one thing that I think added to the replayability for me. Happy game, yay! Which is not. I mean, that's the first thing it tells you in the warning, which is what my review reflects. It's like, take that warning seriously. It's not a happy game, even though it's called happy game. But anyway, that's a conversation for another time.
So, since I think we're done with that point, why don't we talk about our fourth point here, which is achievements and community. Because on the basic level, there's, of course, the achievement hunting community, where people are trying to get every single one for these games that they are passionate about. But then there's also multiple layers to this as well, because for Steam, like, if you and your friend both have the same game, when you look at your game, you can see the achievements that your friends have gotten in that game. And when we tie this in with progression achievements, like for completing chapters in a game, you can see where your friend is at, and you can know what it's safe to talk about if you care about spoilers.
Which you absolutely do.
I absolutely do.
It's a point of contention sometimes, protecting each other from spoilers. That's one of the things that achievements can do in community, and they also lead to me personally ending up back in the Steam community sections. I don't think if it was for achievements, honestly, I ever would have ended up back in those tabs, except to look for guides at first. And then once you're in there looking at guides to find achievements, sometimes, you end up in discussion. I guess it adds integration into community, and it's not all of it, but it definitely is a big piece.
I think achievement guides kind of make up some of the largest sections of guides, simply because, if it's a good game, typically you can beat it without a guide, but achievements are, game plus a lot of the time. So there can be lots of tricks to it.
Yeah, there's specifically going to be things that the developers don't want to have to ask everyone to do to get through the experience.
Yeah, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Unless all the achievements are progression achievements, which, in my opinion, is the most boring use of achievements. And I'm so glad that you shone a light on the fact that it might actually help you connect with your community. Okay, cool.
Yeah, till, today, I did not really see, any point to having them, because it's if the game has those and you didn't notice, when you go to check the achievements, it's that could tell you all about story moments ahead of time.
Yeah, there is also a point in, difficult games having those progression-based achievements because, you worked hard for this. I want to acknowledge that kind of thing. But most games aren't extremely difficult, so it can feel a little off.
Agreed. And, aside from seeing how you compare, or how, the progression achievements do, as earlier stated, let you look at percentages so you can see if your experience of the game, how it compares to other people's, and they're involuntary, you know what I mean? Those calculations and reporting, unlike reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So where, people aren't skewing them for their own purposes. So, there is that. So while it's not a huge reason for them to have achievements, it is one that actually has an impact in ways that I hadn't thought about until today. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
These also could just be, developer tools that they've turned into achievements. So, knowing when players hit certain thresholds is important when you're doing, bug testing and other play testing. So it could just be, we'll just turn those into achievements as well. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I'm not a developer, but I do talk to developers sometimes.
And you play a lot of games.
I do play a lot of games.
Yeah, I've messed around with game development enough that it's there's some, behind-the-scenes things you're gonna probably want as a developer to have the game notify you about, even if that's not really what the final game is supposed to be like, and you might just get used to it telling you. So, seems natural to make it an achievement.
Yeah, the developers continue to get information about how their game is being played as involuntary feedback through these achievements, too. We might have just pulled back the curtain on a developer secret right now. Are we seeing into the secret world of game development?
Well, depending on the game, they might already be upfront that they're collecting your play data so they can fine-tune the game. But, yeah, I can definitely see achievements being a different window into that.
Who knew? And, it may or may not be a thing.
This is our conspiratorial, creepy, dystopian look into achievements.
Why'd you have to put that stink on it? No, thank you. So, okay, I have one more question to ask you guys. How do you feel about hidden achievements?
I think keeping achievements hidden is a great way to prevent those, aforementioned, spoilers from looking through achievements that Sackbot was mentioning. I do think that, like, Steam is implementing this new system where hidden achievements can be clicked on if you're looking to do that, so you don't have to, like, look up a guide to know what the achievement is. And I think that this is, like, a good way to go about it. So that way, like, you have to opt in, and it's more than just one button click. And even if you scroll away from a hidden achievement you've revealed, it will hide itself again automatically.
Yep.
So if you turn out to not want to know what this is, you can backpedal. And so far, I'm really liking this new system.
Yeah, it is a big change how it was before, where it was basically just hidden. It's like if you go to see the global stats for the achievement, it would give you the name and icon of it, but not really explain what it was. You know, if that the achievement's description even explains a darn thing about it.
Which so
That's
often
not a
they do
given.
not.
Yeah, it all depends on the game.
So under the new system, you don't mind hidden achievements. How did you
Yeah.
feel about them before?
I thought it was kind of convoluted, and it felt like a weird cheese to be able to go to global achievements and see the achievements.
Right.
Like,
But
what
I
if-
don't know how many people realized you could do that.
Yeah, I don't know. And, like, this kind of feels like fixing that in a better way, because then you can still see, like, how rare the achievements you have are without seeing the hidden achievements if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Like, I think in general this is just a total improvement of the system.
And, well, yeah. Because, well, for me before, it's like, I had a love-hate thing with hidden achievements. It's like, how much am I supposed to play this game to guess what that freaking hidden achievement is? It's like, I have a game on my phone that has a couple hidden achievements that I don't even know where to look to find out what they are. And I've completed that game, like, in and out. It's not like an exploration game. It's a Kokuro game, okay? And I've beaten them all. It's like, do you have to beat them at a certain speed or something? Because I'm like, I've done them like fast. Because I do it and then do it immediately right over again so I could do it more quickly, thinking that that might get the extra achievement. It did not work, but I can't even find where to look for that. So it's like, you know, I bumped into that kind of thing to where what on earth that achievement would be is unfathomable, and it's maddening, but also, you know, maybe a good time to exercise some practice and restraint and letting go of completionism and perfectionism, because, you know, that's one of the pitfalls of achievements and achievement hunting and trying to be completionist is sometimes it's really just not worth your while or your mental health.
Have you tried putting a 5 in every square?
No.
Yeah.
You can't, though.
Yeah, thinking about, like, achievements that could, you know, really mess up your experience of a video game is... I don't even need to get into the specifics of it too much, but there's, like, one in Slay the Spire, great game, that, you know, it's about, like, items you can pick up during the game that give you buffs, and the game is very much balanced around that, and there's an achievement for just not doing it.
Yeah, for not having any of these relics at all, right? Except for the first one you're given.
Yeah, it's just this kind of thing where on one hand it's like, yeah, it adds this challenge that can really make you emphasize the other aspects of the game, the, you know, the deck building it's actually about, or its use of potions, but at the same time it's like it is asking you to, again, forego something the game is balanced around.
Yeah, I only tried that a couple times, and then I'm just like, bored.
So you can, if the one of those other things does end up clicking for you in the absence of relics, it can just burn you out on the whole thing. So yeah, stuff like that can just push it too far and end you leaving off on a bad note.
Yeah, and I totally, like, thumbs down around the way that the Skyrim achievements are set up, because they're all progress achievements, pretty much. And he's like, complete this quest, you know, or join this faction, you know. It's like they're either completion things or progress. They're not, I don't think they add any whimsy. I mean, and they might add to playability, but they're also things that the game itself would kind of encourage you to do if you're into that kind of thing. It's just like, eh.
And, like, so here's the thing. Like, I remember playing Skyrim when it first came out, and I do not think it had achievements, which means these were tacked on later, which means that it shows.
Yeah, they're not integrated into the game itself, which is a very good point, because sometimes that's the way that goes.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else about community and achievements?
I want to say that I don't think that, like, you don't need to go after achievements in, like, every game you play. Like, even your favorite game, you don't need to get all 100 achievements, 100% achievements.
Yeah, only 100 achievements.
Like, you don't need to 100% a game to love it. But I want to give a brief shout out to you guys who do go and do these things, because, like, some of these games are absolutely ridiculous for asking you to do these things. And then you still do it.
It's like, if anybody knows actually, like, how to make a guide or talk about how to get these achievements, somebody had to do it first. And there's a certain point where nobody knew, so nobody could tell them. Somebody has to do this for the first time and talk about it, and that's...
But you gotta remember that some of the people who do that actually break the game to do it. Some of them take the game apart, see where it is. So don't take it at face value that just because somebody wrote a guide, they're having the normal player experience that's only limited to the environment that's provided immediately by the developers. Or that they're doing it the way it was intended to do it.
You know what I mean? It's like if you, like, you know, break it or reverse engineer it, they're still, like, figuring that all out and documenting it.
Well, that's mad skills, but...
Yeah, and, like, generally, from what I know about these kind of communities, is that that's typically considered a last resort. Like, you reach out to somebody in, like, a different community, like, hey, can you look into our game? Or somebody in the community is so frustrated that they do it themselves. So, like, that's not, like, the normal for this kind of thing. Agreed. I'm just saying that just some of the more impressive ones might have not gone the way that it looks like they did. That's all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, let's see. Oh, do you have any achievement stories?
I mean, I had one, but then it was like... So it's like, just before we knew what the episode was about, so I don't know how to explain it in a concise fashion.
What game was it from?
Risk of Rain 2.
You say that in, like, the most dramatic fashion, like we didn't already know you play this game.
So, immediately it's like, this is about doing something very specific in a difficult game that features permadeath. It's a roguelike, and that will come back in more than one way. So, the objective of this achievement is to get this item from the beginning of the game to level 4. So this item is specifically, like, you know, Risk of Rain 2 is all about collecting items, but it's a specific type which is equipment. You can only carry one of those at a time, and they can be very useful. So you're eating up your slot to carry this one thing that will instantly kill you if you drop below 50% health. You get it to stage 4. There's more to it than just that, though. There can be more than one stage 4.
Do you have to get it to a specific stage 4?
Like, every stage has, like, 2 possible things it can be. There's, like, in stage 1, it's either this, like, open plain or this forest level, and it goes like that for the whole game. And yes, it is, in fact, you need to get this object from the beginning to this specific stage 4. Only one of them works.
Okay, so does that mean, like, if you were to miss it, like, if you theoretically kept going and cycling through these levels over and over, because that's how Risk of Rain works, you could eventually get to it, or...
You have to start over every time.
If you go into, like, yeah, you can loop the main game, so if you go through it, you can, if you keep looping long enough, you will reach it eventually, but that becomes an astronomically heavier task each time.
Oh, jeez.
So what I did to get this achievement was...
Achievement get.
So yeah, there's, a thing in Risk of Rain 2 where you can, unlock these things, which are a challenge in and of themselves with achievements attached. Unlock these things that modify the way the game plays. So I ended up equipping one which, turns you into a glass cannon.
If you already can't drop below 50% health, why take hits at all?
Yeah, just make not taking hits pretty much just completely mandatory. So it also boosts your damage. Combine that with a, playable character who's, very agile. You just turn them into a full glass cannon hit and run character, and it still takes a lot of the leeway out of it entirely, but I just made the fundamentals you have to use to even get the achievement in the first place. Just set it up so I have to practice those. And eventually I got it.
Yeah. And I looked through mine, and congratulations. It sounds like, you earned that achievement.
Fist bumps.
Yep, and I looked through my list of games that, I've 100%ed, and looked through most of my games on Steam to see what kind of achievements there were and which ones I'd gotten, to try and see if there were any that I'm, really proud of, or I couldn't find any I was really proud of. I'm sure that exists, I just couldn't access it in, my story memory. But the weirdest one I probably have is the taking the over 9,000 steps in the clown shoes on Dropsy. And Dropsy has a very wanky interface for achievements anyway. You don't know if you have that achievement right away because it doesn't apply your achievements until you reboot the game the next time you play. So as you start the game again after quitting, it'll then pop up your achievements. I've only experienced that, I think, in something similar in one other game. So there is that. But yeah, if you wear the and it is annoying, the sound those clown shoes make. It's and you have to walk everywhere mostly. So it's a whole lot of honk squeaking for a very strange game.
And your only reward is one small box that says that you did the thing.
Yeah. Over 9,000 times, though.
Oh my god.
You must appease the Fitbit and clown shoes.
Pretty much, yes. Of course, I don't remember how old Dropsy is, so it may predate Fitbits a little bit. But I'm not sure. I don't remember. All I know is, at some point we will probably discuss Dropsy in a little bit more detail, but for now.
And as for, achievements I've gotten, I've told you this story before, but I'm gonna tell it again. So, Sackbot's not the only one who loves Slay the Spire. I also love Slay the Spire.
Yeah, Shuckle is the reason I love Slay the Spire.
Yeah, and there's an achievement in the game which is, disproportionately gained by a lot of people, because this achievement is have your deck be 5 cards or less. And it's generally a pretty difficult one to get, because typically you want to be gaining new cards to replace your old cards, and getting rid of cards is not easy. So it's a pretty cool achievement to get. But here's the thing. For a while there was this glitch where when you booted up the game for the first time, you didn't have a deck, which means you had 0 cards, which means it's beneath 5 cards, which means clearly you deserve this achievement. So me and many, many people have this achievement when we should not. And
accidental achievement, go!
Yes. So someday I should get this achievement legitimately, but I have yet to do so, and it makes me smile. It's just, it turned it into the tutorial achievement for a lot of people.
You booted up Slay the Spire. Achievement get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've since patched this. I don't remember when they patched it, but it is fixed now. You're gonna have to get it the hard way.
Sad face.
Thinking about getting achievements when you really weren't supposed to, there was actually another example of that in Risk of Rain 2. Using the same character I did for that other one, actually. Yeah, there's this sort of, not specifically daily, but it's like this timed challenge mode where it will be this on this set seed, so it's not really randomized. So your goal is to, beat one of those without getting hit, but the problem is, one of them was glitched out so no enemies spawned, so you couldn't get hit.
Oh no!
I mean, yeah, that's how I beat it. Yeah, that's a cool achievement and all, but it's kind of engaging with a niche thing, and also this exploit is so funny.
No. Oh. The joy of cheesing achievements.
Yeah.
Achievements.
When glitches and achievements meet. Oh.
It's no shade to the developers. It's always they made a great game, and it's okay if it was broken for a bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, gosh. Yeah, I don't hold it against any developer that their game is broken because, well, look at what they accomplish. It's just, I can't even fathom all the work it takes to make a game. It's just playing them and talking about them is a lot. Developing them is a whole nother level. So, hats off to developers, I mean, really. I want to definitely thank you for doing what you do. My life is greatly enhanced by video games. I wanted to salute developers,
It's like when accidentally awarding people for a difficult challenge that was actually easy by accident is yeah, when that's the exception and not the standard, that says a lot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then, bringing it back, I want to circle all the way back to Void Rain Spawner Heart again, because 600 achievements. You come up with them, program them, name each one a pop culture reference. That's above and beyond. Alright, developers, you stun me on a daily basis.
So yeah, hats off to developers. Thank you so much.
I would not have my favorite hobby without you.
Absolutely. Your art is greatly appreciated. Your efforts are greatly appreciated. So,
I think that's all we wanted to talk about.
A little bit of housekeeping. We've had a rough time over the last few months, and I want to take a moment to dedicate this episode to our kitty that we had to say goodbye to in between the making of last episode and this one. Our dear Mousky is no longer with us, and we'll put his picture in the blog.
And honestly, he's got the achievements of potentially longest lived cat that we've had. It's a pretty close race there, but he deserves that award there.
Most dedicated to life, for sure. He was 13, and the vet thinks he had cancer, that there was nothing we could do. But,
we made sure he had the best life that we could.
Yeah, but so I'm going to dedicate this episode to him. And goodbye, Mousky.
Yeah, I just want to say is he could be a bit much sometimes, but he was a good cat. I trusted him not to hurt me on just a subconscious level. I literally had a dream about how him attacking me was preposterous.
That's saying something, because the Nightmare Realm will do all kinds of things. So.
Yeah.
We want to talk about what we're playing?
Lately on Tiny Game Tuesday, I played this visual novel called One-Eyed Lee and the Dinner Party, which was very different. I mean, sure, it's like a visual novel point-and-click puzzle game. That's not too out of the ordinary, but, it had rather interesting character dynamics, and, everybody had their own really nice personality, but the two main characters, there was kind of a tug of war between them, with the impulsive one versus the safety-oriented one that I really enjoyed. Just, if you go look at this game, be sure to find the prologue on itch. I think that perspective is really needed for this game, and it's very important.
So yeah, one thing I want to talk about the games I've been playing recently, but I do want to circle back and mention it's the fan-enhanced version of, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is called Sonic 3 Air. Just wanted to shout that out specifically. It's great. I appreciate the game a ton more because of that. Just want to make sure I mention that. So yeah, other than that, I have been getting back into this kind of weird first-person shooter Ravenfield again recently. Basically, its kind of big thing for me is that it's a veritable modding platform. There's a lot of ways you can customize it and have really weird experiences in it. Yeah, other than that, as I mentioned in the middle of this, Pizza Tower, still playing that, still enjoying it. Yeah, really getting into the nitty-gritty of it now.
So, and I've been playing a game called Heaven's Vault. That's been put quite a few hours on that since I bought it on the 4th of July.
How many tens of hours?
I don't think it's 50 yet, so it's not obsessive, which is good, because I don't want to be obsessive, especially with this one. It's a little janky, in my opinion. I'm liking it a lot, but it's 4 different games all kind of put together, and it doesn't quite fit. The mechanics just don't transfer from one kind of it to another, and I could do a whole essay on it's a great vessel for talking about gatekeeping in games, because I feel gate kept on every single level of that game. But anyway, it's a mystery story kind of narrative game that's based around a pathfinding mechanic and a translation type puzzle mechanic, and between those two things you're trying to open up stuff and solve a mystery. Yeah, the one thing they don't tell you from the beginning that's kind of implied after you finish the storyline the first time is that, they expect you to play this game more than once. Now, I'm still on my second playthrough now, and I'm not sure if they expect you to play it again or not, so that falls right into the gatekeeping again. I don't have an opinion yet on whether or not I recommend the game versus I recommend, like, watching somebody play it. There's definitely some good stuff happening there, and the story is definitely rich, but I don't know if it's worth the intensity and the tedium and the gatekeeping you have to put up with to get there. And so, that's still up in the air. The other thing I've been doing is I'm finally done with almost everything from Outer Wilds. And so we can finally start talking about that here. And I've been inspired to the point where I want to try something pretty ambitious around that game.
Like, there's just way too much to talk about. And I know that's saying something considering the length of this episode. We've been going on for a long time. But there's just too much to talk about in Outer Wilds to contain in one episode.
So we're going to try for 4. And we're going to have Outer Wilds August. We're going to try and do an episode once a week. And so this is pretty ambitious. Please join us if you've played the game. And I feel very strongly about this. I would rather you ignore our podcast episodes for the entire month of August than spoil the game for yourself if you have any intention of ever playing it. And there's games that the story, you can get the story, you can understand the story of Outer Wilds by watching somebody play it. But the mechanics play into the experience, the immersion. There's some games I recommend that if it's at all possible for you to play it, that you play it to really have the full experience. And this is absolutely one of them.
So, needless to say, there's going to be spoilers.
Oh, yeah, no, the whole thing is spoilered.
This is our encouragement now, if you want to listen to these episodes, to go pick up Outer Wilds. It might still be on sale on Steam, maybe.
I don't know. I didn't check today, and, it's going to be a bit between recording and when the episode comes out. But still, either avoid the episodes if you haven't played, go play.
If this game starts to sound interesting to you, stop and go play it. Mm-hmm. Immediately.
And I mean that more for this game than for any other game that I plan on talking about. And I'm not a big one for defending people against spoilers. I really do believe in the power of anticipation just as much as the power of surprise and an aha moment of experiencing something for the first time while it happens.
Yeah, I mean, there was probably some bits of it that you might have been a bit more into if I told you in advance about the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There is something for that. It's like, oh, I know why I'm putting up with this frustration right now, because I know it's going to pay off. Sometimes that's helpful, but this one, there's just, I don't know, go play it. It's worth experiencing if you can.
It's like it mechanically uses learning things about the game in an incredibly interesting way.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we haven't quite decided on what the episode list is going to be, but I'm hoping this time to actually do promotional materials, so look out for all of that. And please do, if you have played the game, if you love the game, come and join us for Outer Wilds August. I'm really excited.
We're planning upwards of 3 episodes.
Yeah, no kidding. Eek! All right.
Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm Honeyshuckleex.
I'm Sackbot Barbecue.
And I'm Giggle Klutz. Bye!
Bye!
Bye.